Oh, hello. Welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan, and it is a Monday, and we stream on Mondays. Usually we stream after the final game on a Monday, but there was no Monday fixture this week, so I thought we'd just stream at random times. We're going for 7 p.m. Don't ask me why. It's just when I was free, I guess. So yeah, this is the reason. I know a few people ask, whenever we do a Monday stream and there's no game on a Monday, people often ask, why are you streaming? Random time stream. We just stream every Monday on the FPL Mate channel. It's just usually after the Monday night game, but yeah, so that's why. I don't really like streaming on a Sunday because I feel like there are other streamers who do the streams on the Sundays, and also like I like to be making videos. I like to be making my Sunday video. I like to be preparing my Monday video on a Sunday evening. So I don't really have so much time to do a stream, but hey, we can maybe change that in the future. If you want a Sunday stream, let me know. We can potentially think about moving the Mondays to a Sunday, and then maybe we'll do a double upload on a Monday instead. I don't know. There's probably different ways of doing things, but yeah, just to clear that one up. But hi guys, how are you all doing? Happy game week 11. Game week 10 is now over. It's good to see you guys for another game week. And yeah, first of all, I just want to say, because I was having a little think about this earlier, I do genuinely, right, there's a lot of streamers out there for FPL these days. I have to say, I really do appreciate you guys tuning in on these random streams on a Monday. Yeah, just appreciate you guys watching. Really do. Because you have so many choices, and yet for some reason you pick this guy. But very grateful. But yes, guys, a few things to talk about today. Obviously, game week 10 has just completed. Hopefully you guys did pretty well for your game week 10s. I think a lot of people had some decent scores. I did see a few stinky scores, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of people did very well indeed. A few things we need to talk about today. I think captaincy is a big one. We're going to get you guys in the polls, seeing what you guys think about captaincy. And yeah, I think I want to talk about some of the more popular assets today. Obviously, we did a tier list video already today, but I do want to have a bit of back and forth with the chat a little bit, talking about some of these really popular transfers in this week that actually I don't really see it. So if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be proven wrong. If you've got something for me, then yes, I'd like to hear it. And there's just a few other little bits and bobs that I want to talk about as well. So yes, guys, let's first of all, before we go any further, let's have a quick sneaky little look at not this page. I'm on the wrong page. Oh, I'm all over the place today, guys. I do apologize. Yeah, this is what we want to look at. My scores. So yeah, I captained Watkins. That went wrong. That went pretty wrong indeed. But like in general, actually, and I'm not really complaining. 72 points. It was a green arrow. We're up to 158k now. Like, so we're in a pretty good position. Like, I'm definitely not complaining. It's like obviously not the best score in the world. I'm sure there's a few people who got a little bit higher than me. That's absolutely fine. But yeah, 72 points. Nothing wrong with that. Always appreciate a green arrow, no matter how big or small. It's something that we very much like. Yeah, it could have been a few more points if I did captain Salah, but do I regret this decision? If I could go back in time, would I captain Salah instead of Watkins? No, I wouldn't. If I could go back in time, I would have captained probably HAALAND, to be honest, because he got the most points. So that's who I'd captain if I could go back in time. Do I regret the decision? Not really. No. I thought it was a good time to do a differential captain, go for something a little bit different. So I went against the safe pick of Salah. And honestly, I do think I probably got a little bit unlucky on that one. Salah, you know, obviously he was very creative in that game, but the goal that he got, you know, was from a huge mistake from Matt Turner kind of towards the end of the game, where Salah could just capitalise it and roll it into an empty net, essentially. Very easy goal from a defensive mistake from Nottingham Forest. Watkins, on the other hand, obviously had a really good double chance at the beginning of the game. Also set up a really nice chance for Zaniolo. Thought he was pretty effective in that first half against Luton. But it just didn't happen. It just didn't come off. But look, we can say, oh, it was a bit unlucky. But hey, that is literally part of FPL. And I can say I got unlucky there. There were definitely other areas of my team where I did get lucky. So, for example, Gabriel didn't start. That's unlucky. Taylor came on with a 6-pointer. That's lucky. You know, like, it was nice to have, like, Derby Hall. That was good. A Cash, of course, got substituted off before Aston Villa lost their clean sheet. That's lucky. So, look, it goes both ways. That's part of the FPL. The whole point of FPL is not trying to be perfect every single game week, but it's about trying to put yourself in the best position to be lucky. And as long as you keep getting green arrows, it's probably a sign that you are at least doing that. Sometimes everything will come up off you, very rarely, and sometimes things won't, and usually it's going to be a mix of a bit of both. So no need to beat ourselves up about any of that. I think I'm content. Like, it could have been better if Watkins' captaincy worked out a little bit better. Hey, it could have been better, but it's part of FPL. It's part of FPL. But whatever. Next week, my team is looking okay, I think. It's never nice to have Gabriel and Trippier against each other, but look, that's life. We've got a double Spurs midfield against Chelsea. Can't really decide how I feel about that one. That could go either way, couldn't it? But aside from that, I'm pretty happy, other than this man, Thomas Soucek, obviously benched last game week, which was a bit painful. The good news on Soucek is that he's not going to get benched in game week 11 because Alvarez, who is the defensive midfielder for West Ham, got his 5th yellow card and therefore is going to be suspended. So Soucek should play a nice game against Brentford in central defensive midfield. Woohoo! Yeah, that one's not really it's not really paid off for me, really, as it's turned out to be a bit of a not a bit of a tragic pick. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, like, to be fair, again, not going to beat myself up about this one because, like, obviously I knew that Soucek was not going to score as many points as, like, people will say, why didn't you go for, like Gordon or, you know, like Mitoma or Neto or someone like that? The whole point was I wanted to go for someone super cheap so I could free up enough budget to do Maddison to Saka whenever I want to do that. So, like, it served a purpose, don't get me wrong, but it would have been nice to get a few more points. He had the best numbers, he was looking good, he was playing in an advanced position, but maybe, you know, there's obviously been some oversight from me there. You know, I didn't think enough about when he was going to get rotated and, like, how things could change in the West Ham system, which, in hindsight is a wonderful thing. It's very easy to now look back and say this, but Kudus, you know, he was always lurking. He was always lurking. There was always a chance he was going to take Soucek's place. And I wish I had thought about that a bit more. But even if I had, like, who would I have gone for instead? Because I couldn't afford anyone. I think 5.1 million would be the most I would have been able to spend. And this happened a couple of weeks ago, by the way. So it's not like I brought in Soucek this week. I brought him in a couple of weeks ago. I could have gone for Palmer. In hindsight, I kind of wish I did go for Palmer, even though I don't like the fixtures. In fact, I hate the fixtures. Like, Chelsea have, after game week 11, they have Spurs, and then game week 12 and 13, they've got Man City and Newcastle back-to-back, which is absolute horror. When you include, like, Arsenal in that run, which it would have been when I would have brought in Palmer, like, that is a horror run of fixtures for any player. Like, you could be the best player in the Premier League and that would still be, you know, really, really tough. But at least I would have a player who, one, looks really good. Look, I'm watching Palmer at the moment. I think this is a good player. I did think, okay, maybe this guy's going to be a penalty merchant. I'm thinking, yeah, no, he's got a bit more. He's got a bit more to him. And I think Palmer is definitely a player I'd be looking to get in the future. Like, Soucek to Palmer, as long as Soucek doesn't drop and Palmer, like, doesn't rise, I can still afford to do the Maddison to Saka pick, which I'm probably going to wait now till game week 12 before doing that. And then that will still leave me just enough money to bring in Cole Palmer. It's tight, though. And I think if they look like they're going to, one of them's going to change price, either Palmer or Soucek, I might have to pull the trigger on this bad boy. Unless we get Saka price rise, but I don't think we will. But yeah, I might have to pull the trigger earlier on Palmer. Ideally, I don't want to bring him in for Man City and Newcastle. I would love to bring him in from game week 14 onwards. This is the run I want him for. This run. All the way, like, until probably, like, here. This is the run of games I want him for. 14 to 24. I would be happy to hold him through that. But I might have to go early. And if like I have to go early, then that's absolutely fine. I guess I'm not losing a lot on Soshek. Soshek realistically is like a 2-point merchant. Probably going to be a 2-point merchant if he plays deeper, or if he's not going to play an attacking midfield. Probably not going to get that many points anyway. So like, what is the difference? But yeah, I think there is some regret there on my behalf, for sure. But again, hindsight is a wonderful thing. If I could get everything right, then look, I'd be first in the world for FPL. I'm not first in the world of FPL, as you guys very well know. But in general, we're doing pretty well. We're still getting green arrows every week for like weeks and weeks and weeks now. So yeah, I think things are still going pretty well. I can't get everything perfect. Hopefully, I don't know, man. Hopefully, you know, as long as we make more good decisions than bad decisions, I'm not gonna beat myself up. And I think you guys should have the same opinion on that one. Like, you can't expect to get everything right. It's just not possible. As long as you get most things right, then you're going to be in a good situation in general. And yeah, I definitely think like top 100k is definitely on within the next couple of game weeks, as long as I don't make any horror moves. But in general, my team is pretty template. I like my team in general. We've got some nice players. It's good. Jandre says Palmer might get a price drop through those fixtures. I pretty much doubt it. Unless Palmer like blanks maybe 3 games in a row. Or 2 games, maybe even 2 games in a row. It's going to take a few blanks. Probably 2 more from now. It's probably going to take that before he starts dropping in price. And there also has to be another midfielder around his price that people are moving to as well. In which case, maybe that's the midfielder I move to as well. I don't know. But yeah, I do need to keep this slot cheap. Whether it's a Dingra or Palmer, I don't know. It's not going to be Soshek long term. If we can start, if we get indication that he's going to start playing attacking midfield again, then that's what I would love, ideally, for 12 and 13. I'm less and less convinced by that one. So, but yeah, anyway, we'll stop talking about Soshek because I'm probably the only person in the world who has him in their FPL team. But more for me, I suppose. Right, guys, I do want to get a poll going. Let's kick off with a poll. I say kick off with a poll as if we haven't been streaming for 10 minutes already. Let's do the captaincy poll. Who is the best Game Week 11 captain? And I want to get your opinions. Is it Erling Haaland or is it Salah? This is what I want to know. I mean, I guess I could throw an other in there as well, but I mean, really, is anyone actually genuinely looking at anyone else for Game Week 11 outside these two? And if you are very, very crazy, and whatever you're smoking, let me get a hit on that. So yeah, I'm gonna throw in in fact, no, I'm not even gonna entertain the other. We're not gonna have another. I just don't think it's I don't even think it's an interesting conversation, to be honest. And I think the only people who say anyone other than Haaland and Salah are probably just trolls, to be honest, because it's so obvious to pick one of those two. So obvious to pick one of those two. Like, surely. There we go. Son says our mix. I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. Well, anyway, we'll get the poll going, and then I'll give my opinion on the matter. Because I do have an opinion on the matter. I mean, you'd hope so. I mean, that's the whole point in this YouTube channel, right? Is some opinions and some stats and some entertainment along the way, right? Okay, right. This is something I wanted to talk about today. And what we're going to do is I'm going to order, whilst you guys are voting on the poll, and make sure you are getting your votes in. Always good to see what you guys are thinking, what's going on in your guys' mind. But yeah, what we've got on screen, guys, is the Fantasy Premier League website. And I've just gone on the statistics page and ordered the players by most transferred in ahead of Game Week 11. So these are the most popular transfers in. Now, the numbers at this early stage of the week are not always the best indication of where the overall FPL player base is going, what they're thinking, because, I mean, it's the people who make transfers like this early on in the week are, and I'm not saying everyone, please be aware, I'm not saying everyone. A lot of people are, you know, chasing price changes and stuff like that, maybe forced to make moves because of price changes, but also a lot of people are just knee-jerking, making immediate, quick hit transfers, quick thought, no real thought process go into it. And a lot of it is just pick whoever scored the most points last game week. And as we know, you can see that the top 2 players in here are players who scored well last week. Now, my question is, not so much for Mbumo, but more so for Nketiah and to a lesser extent Douglas Luiz. Why are people bringing them in? Let's start off with Nketiah, because with 167,000 people having already transferred him in, one of you guys in the chat, or who's watching this stream right now, or who's watching this as a stream replay, at least one of you guys has already made this move. At least one of you. Maybe even more. Even more of you will be strongly considering this move. And what I want to know is why. I want reasoning. I don't want he scored a lot of points last game week. That's not good enough for me. I don't want he's I guess you say he's gonna play whilst Jesus is out. Yeah, but that's gonna be, we've got 2 weeks and then we've got the international break and then Jesus is gonna be back. So what are the actual reasons? And by the way, in those 2 games, one, I'm not 100% convinced he's going to start both games necessarily. And there was obviously a lot of changes to a lot of main, a lot of the main Arsenal players. We saw Gabriel rotated, and I know people. We'll talk about Gabriel. Don't worry, we'll talk about Gabriel. We'll get there. But we got Ødegaard also rotated in that game. There was obviously some changes in this Arsenal team in an easier fixture where certain players would just get him rested, So who is going to be really starting as the central striker? Is it going to be Nketiah guaranteed for the next 2 games? Is Kai Havertz going to come in there? Is maybe Trossard going to play in there? We've seen that before. Is Martinelli come central? I'm not saying for both games, but maybe for one of the 2 games. Is something like that going to happen? I think potentially. I think that's potentially going to happen. So just reading through some of your chats here. Someone says it's an Arsenal attacker. Yes, it is. Do you want an Arsenal attacker against Newcastle away? Is that a priority to get an Arsenal attacker ahead of Newcastle away? I wouldn't say so. Nketiah will only start next 2 game weeks, in my opinion. Yeah, Lewis, I agree. What else have we got here? He plays for the best club in the world. I mean, even as an Arsenal fan, I'm not sure if I agree with that one. Zach says, I had Nketiah last week. He's a 1-week wonder, so I'm selling him. I mean, to me, that makes more sense. To punt on Nketiah for the Sheffield United game seems perfectly logical. I can fully get behind that one. I think I even mentioned it in my 2 streams actually last week on Friday. I mentioned in both streams, Nketiah, I really kind of like him as a little punt, a little differential for that Sheffield United game. But I don't think the Newcastle game holds the same appeal, right? I'm not really sure about that one. Don't know. I think Newcastle versus Arsenal will be many goals, says Shamil. Why? Why do you think that? I think it'll be opposite. I think it'll be quite a cagey game. Let's quickly go and just have a look at the quality of these defenses. And believe me when I say there is some quality in both of these defenses. So we're on the Fantasy Football Hub OptaStats tool. If you want to check out Fantasy Football Hub and all of their wonderful tools that we use in these streams, make sure you go check out the link at the description. You can get a free trial. Get a free trial on this bad boy, which is always very, very nice. Can't really quite see the whole table there. So can we just squeeze that in a bit? Has that helped? There we go. That's a little better. Yeah, is that still lined up? Is everything lined up okay? Yeah, it looks fine. Yeah, so when we look at this, we can see that the best teams for... Let's go non-penalty expected goals conceded. I do quite like that metric. We look at the top teams for non-penalty expected goals against. We've got Man City, of course, they're top. No surprise there. Arsenal, again, yeah, it's not really too surprising. Top defence. Then we've got Chelsea, Might surprise a few people. And then we've got Newcastle. So both Arsenal and Newcastle are top 4 defences in the league for non-penalty expected goals against. If you don't like underlying numbers and you're a Neanderthal, you're a Philistine, and you only care about actual goals conceded, you're going to see a similar situation. Both Arsenal and Newcastle, both in the top 4 for goals conceded so far this season. Now, if we shrink down the data set even more and kind of look at some slightly more recent data, you're going to see Arsenal and Newcastle, their numbers get even better. So if we go for the last few game weeks, for example, 5 to 9. Why are we only on 9? We should have 10 in here. I need to reload this page, I think. So we can get game week 10 in here, but you're going to see the same. You're going to see a similar situation regardless. So defensive teams, non-penalty goals against, same situation. Well, actually, after game week 10, Arsenal have actually moved into first place for non-penalty expected goals against, which is quite crazy. Change it to slightly more recent game weeks. Again, you can see Arsenal and Newcastle even better defensive form. So we're looking at 2 of the best defenses in the league. Both teams, they're not necessarily like big, open, expansive teams in the same ways. You know, like for like a Liverpool versus Man City, 2 top teams, 2 top defenses, but we know how they play, and you would imagine that could be a higher scoring game. We could take a Brighton versus Aston Villa or something like that. You know it's going to be a big open game, right? Newcastle and Arsenal doesn't strike me as that kind of game. Both teams happy to defend very, very solidly. Newcastle are a team that is very happy to dig in. Arsenal are a team that is very happy to hold on to the ball. It's not a game that screams goals to me. I think a 0-0 would not totally surprise me. A 1-0 either way is probably the most likely outcome. If I had to guess right now, I would say 1-0 Arsenal. Could that, but in fairness, right? Could that be an Nketiah with the 1 goal? Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I guess that could happen, right? But would we be gambling on that? We said about earlier, FPL is about putting yourself in the best positions to get lucky. And one of the ways you do that is you target games, you target fixtures, you target players who you expect a lot of goals from. You know, Man City against Bournemouth. We know there's going to be a lot of goals in that game, right? We know it. It's so obvious. We said, Aston Villa versus Luton last week. We know there was going to be goals in those games. So therefore, we look through the players and we say, who is, dominating the numbers there? Who's more likely to get the best amount of goals? Let's pick that player, right? Is Nketiah that? Most popular, and the only reason I'm talking about Nketiah so much here is because he is the most popular transfer of the game week. Let's go per 90 minutes. Arsenal. And then we'll go, I guess, XG. It's going to be a little bit messed up because of super low minutes players. So I guess, can we hide low minutes players, or is that going to remove Nketiah? No, no, it removes Jesus though. But anyway, okay. So there's been a few big players who've been removed for him, but you can see that Nketiah's, assuming he plays 90 minutes against Newcastle, his average this season has been 0.39 XG. So that's a goal every 2 to 3 games. You look through his recent scores and goals and stuff like that. And by the way, he's been playing very consistently for Arsenal, very consistently this season. Because of Jesus' injury, and then sometimes we've been playing together because of Martinelli's injury as well. There's been a lot of times where Nketiah has been playing. And through this, you can kind of see, well, all right, he's got 5 goals total in 10 appearances, which is not too bad, really. 5 goals, 2 assists. But 3 of them are against Sheffield United. So now we're looking at 2 goals, 2 assists in 10 appearances. Okay, it's not too bad. Where did those goals and assists come from? Well, we've got an assist against Bournemouth. We've got a goal against Fulham, an assist against Crystal Palace, Had a goal against Nottingham Forest. Now, fair enough, Sheffield United is a weak team. But when you look at the tougher games, a little bit harder for him. A little bit more difficult for him. So, yeah. Basically, I don't think we need to talk about this too much. I think most of you guys, judging by the chat, I think most of you guys actually pretty much agree with me. That it's just not a good pick, is it? You've got a player for 2 game weeks. And one of those game weeks, the game week right now, is Newcastle. Now, would I go for Nketiah as a punt against Burnley? Now we're talking business. But who have you got right now? Like, who have you got now in the forward slot that is so bad that is being removed? I mean, let's just go forwards, transfers out. Who are people removing for Nketiah? Isak? I mean, yeah, he gets he's injured, so that makes sense to remove him. I guess, but not necessarily for Nketiah. Alvarez, people are removing Alvarez for Nketiah when Alvarez is about to play Bournemouth. Crazy. People are removing Watkins when he's about to play Nottingham Forest. Crazy. People are removing Morris. Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. Although, to be honest, Morris on penalties, I'd probably back Morris and Whistler as well more this game week than I do Nketiah. And João Pedro as well, back him more. And Højlund, I back him more. Like, out of all of these players, there's not a single one of them that I would, you know, maybe if we go down as low as Solanke, then, you know, fair enough. Because both Solanke and Nketiah both probably scored 2 points each, right? But aside from that, like, all of these other popular sold forwards, the ones that are fit, I wouldn't be selling them for Nketiah this week. I wouldn't be doing that. No way, Jose. Right, anyway. Okay, back on Arsenal, because I did say, well, let's talk about Gabriel very, very quickly, because, you know, people are already selling him. People are giving up on him. I do want to say this. I hate saying as an Arsenal fan, but I do follow Arsenal pretty closely. I do want to say that I'm not worried about Gabriel's minutes moving forward. And I have to say this with the huge caveat is, I have been wrong about this one before. So I could be wrong again. That's definitely something that can happen. I could be wrong again. But we saw in the Sheffield United game, Arsenal rested some key players that have played a lot of minutes recently. And when I say a lot of minutes, I don't just mean for Arsenal. I also mean in the international break as well. Because Gabriel playing for Brazil, Ødegaard playing for Norway, and we've had European games. It's been crazy. There's been a lot of games. So this Sheffield United game, I think, respectfully to Sheffield United, it's a game you can probably afford to rest a couple of key players. It doesn't make those key players any less key. I do think that Gabriel, just because he missed that game, doesn't mean he's going to go on and miss more games. And it's funny that people are now worried about Gabriel not starting to get rotated a little bit more. People will not be saying the same thing about Ødegaard. Ødegaard got dropped in the same game. Rotated in the same game. And I get there's more frustration around Gabriel because we're all still feeling the pain from game week 1, 2, 3. But no, I think Gabriel, I think this rest is a good sign moving forward. I think there's no way he doesn't play against Newcastle. There's no way. We can't afford to not play one of our best centre-backs, one of our 2 best centre-backs against a game as tough as Newcastle. Now, could he get rested against Burnley? I think we could probably afford to rest him or rotate him, but he doesn't need it now. He doesn't need it. He's had his rest. In fact, if anything, I think SALAH is possibly the next player to get rested. Salibah's one advantage is that his international breaks are only in France, and also, he doesn't really play as much for his country. Don't know why. Saliba should be first choice in the France for France centre backs, but that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, honestly, Gabriel not worried at all. Think he should start all of these games. Like, after Newcastle, got Burnley, Brentford, Wolves, Luton. These are phenomenal fixtures. You would not be surprised to see Arsenal do 4 clean sheets in 4. We've got at least 3 clean sheets in us there. So I'm not worried. I'm not worried about it. Not worried. Any more than I'm worried about Ødegaard getting rotated next game week. He'll come back straight back into the Arsenal team. He'll be absolutely fine. So there we go. Right. Let's go captaincy poll, and then we'll wrap up with some of your questions and some price changes. So yeah, let's talk about the captaincy. So how are we going to do this on screen? Let's do a player comparison. We'll throw in Haaland on the blue corner. Actually, there you go. Haaland on the blue corner, and the red corner, not Saka, Salah. Salah. So these are our two choices, right? And I think what you see on screen right now is quite well demonstrated in game week 10. So whether you like the stats or not, I think we could also see it with our own eyes in game week 10. Just kind of epitomizes what these two players are all about. So Haaland is, when he's in the right form, in the right mood, and there's a strong Man City team around him, which there hasn't always been. There has been some times where Man City haven't had all of their players available. Now they pretty much do. Only De Bruyne, that is missing now. When everything is clicking, everything's working, Man City are in the right form, got their players, Haaland is on the ball. He is a machine. He is a monster. We know this. We saw this all last season. We saw it time and time again. Hat-tricks every other week. Easy. Like, he just does Haaland things. Just does it. It makes it seem like it's nothing. And when you watch the Manchester United game, that was a prime example of that. Haaland was just on it. Always in the right positions. Always ready to go. He could have scored more goals in that game, to be honest. It could have been even more, potent of a FPL score than it already was. And that's what we saw for Erling Haaland. And that's something that I think some people have forgotten about, which is kind of crazy, because a lot of people, because there have been some very, very vocal voices in the FPL world about selling Haaland and how we don't need Haaland. There's only actually a small minority of people who are selling Haaland or have been selling Haaland and removing him from their team. But they're very, very vocal about it. And I understand why. If I was to sell Haaland, I would be very vocal about it, because I would constantly be having to reaffirm to myself and, seeking, validation perhaps, that it was the right move, and almost trying to convince yourself that this is a good move. I think when we get down to it, there's never really a right answer in FPL. I don't believe that any player is truly essential. I don't believe that. There's never truly a right answer. But if you put yourself in a dangerous position where you're selling Erling Haaland, you need reassurance, because it is such a dangerous player to go without when so many people own him. You need that reassurance. You need to convince yourself that it's okay. And for a couple of weeks, it was okay. For a couple of weeks. When we look at Erling Haaland, though, and I think this is what's been very quickly forgotten, people who maybe sold Haaland or, have lost faith in Haaland, looked at this 16-pointer against Manchester United and were surprised. I personally was not surprised by this at all. I'm not saying that I knew it was going to happen, but we spoke about it a lot last week. That it was a difficult game to call, but there's every chance that Haaland could go crazy. He did it last year. We said about this. Man City, with all of their players, or most of their players, against an out-of-form Manchester United, is dangerous. It is dangerous. And it was dangerous. So wasn't surprised to see this at all, really. I don't think it was a guarantee that Haaland was going to haul in this game at all. Not in the same way as it's pretty much a guarantee he's going to haul it against Bournemouth. But it was certainly something that could have happened. It's certainly something that could have happened. Similarly, something that could have happened against Brighton, but didn't, I guess. But what I think people have forgotten is the Fulham result and the Burnley result. And we say it was so long ago. Not really. It wasn't really that long ago. We're talking about, a couple of months. If that. And these are the Haaland games where he just goes crazy. There was a couple of tough results. There was the loss against Wolves. There was the loss against Arsenal. And I think those two fixtures or results kind of swayed people a little bit. People looked at the 6-point score against West Ham. Anyone who watched that Man City West Ham game will know that it was almost unbelievable that Haaland didn't score a hat-trick in that game. It was crazy. He had so many chances. He was super on it. It was so unfortunate that he didn't get more from that game. It was actually bizarre. So he has had these moments even more recently than that. When everything is clicking again for Man City, it's no surprise to see this is going to happen again. And it will continue to happen. And going through these fixtures, Bournemouth at home, Haaland hat-trick, wouldn't be surprised. Against Chelsea, you know, if Haaland got a brace in that game, would you be surprised? No, you wouldn't. If he got a brace against Liverpool, would you be surprised? No, you wouldn't. If he scored a hat-trick against Spurs, would you be surprised? Nope. Aston Villa, hat-trick, wouldn't be surprised. 4 goals against Newcastle, would you be surprised? Nope. Crystal Palace at home, 4 goals, would you be surprised? No. That says it all, does it not? Because this is what we're looking for in our FPL picks, particularly in our captain picks. We want players who are capable of going crazy and scoring like something, like in the insane scores. It would be nice to pick a player. You know, it's nice. Oh, we have a captain who scores a goal. Whatever. We don't care about that. We want the mega hauls. And that is why Erling Haaland is such a good FPL pick, because he's always capable of getting the mega haul. A mega haul that so many other players get so rarely. So rarely. And he hasn't really relied on penalties or anything like that. I mean, he has penalties. People forget he has penalties. People say Salah has penalties. So does Haaland, man. So, to me, I mean, I'm team Haaland. Now, going back to these numbers, what we see here, and like I say, this was epitomised in Game Week 10. Haaland gets a lot of XG. He gets a lot of big chances. He takes a lot of shots. He makes a lot of shots on target. He is dangerous. He is a shooting machine. Now, Salah, on the other hand, his shooting numbers are decent. They are decent. In fact, they're not decent. In a pre-Haaland world, they're really good. They're really good. But they're not quite Haaland. We do see from Salah is his creativity is really good. And his ability to score penalties is, well, I mean, I was going to say the same as any other player who takes penalties, but actually, I don't even think Salah's a particularly good penalty taker. But look, a penalty taker is going to get you FPL points. That is a fact. That is why we love penalty takers in FPL. And that's why we love Salah. Well, one of the reasons we love Salah. But I do feel like, outside of creativity, which is good, his creativity is good, and we saw that again. That was demonstrated in the Nottingham Forest game. Unlucky not to get an assist in that game. Outside of that, we are looking at penalties and counter-attacks. And I get slated every time I say this. And it's particularly Liverpool fans who are, respectfully, I know Liverpool fans are quite protective. They love their players. They're quite protective of them. And they don't really like it when it seems like someone is throwing shade at their players. Please do not confuse this for me throwing shade at Salah. I think he's a wonderful football player. But his game, from what I've seen, and I've been saying this is not a new revelation. I've been saying this for 6 months, maybe even more. I was saying that this second half of last season. Salah's game, his role in the team has changed. That doesn't make him a worse player. It might make him a slightly different kind of FPL asset. And that's the point I think I'm trying to make here. Salah is more of a creator. He's more of a creator in this Liverpool team. And actually, the danger man is Darwin Núñez. Whenever Darwin plays, he is the danger man. But Salah will get goals as well. But the way he'll get goals seems to be almost exclusive. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh here. But the majority of his goals right now seem to come from 2 situations. 1, penalties. And 2, counter-attacks when Liverpool are already winning. And not always necessarily that, but counter-attacks often when Liverpool are already winning and the opposition team is pushed up and a ball is just played in behind and Salah can run through. That is exactly what happened against Newcastle. That's exactly what happened against Nottingham Forest. Big mistake from Turner. Salah runs through on the counter, puts it in the back of the net. He's wonderful at that. But it relies on Liverpool going ahead in games early. The later Liverpool score their first goal in a game, the less likely it is that Salah is going to do well in that game. I never fancy Salah, unless it's a penalty, I never fancy Salah to get the first goal in a game. Never fancy it. It will happen sometimes, but, you know, we're looking at, you know, people often place bets like first goal scorer in this game. I don't think I would pick Salah. I think Salah is a pretty poor pick in that kind of situation. I would actually say a player like Darwin or Jota or Diaz, something like that, more likely to score the opening goal in the game. Then after that, when, you know, teams are looking to push into Liverpool's half, Salah bombs. He goes crazy. He goes nuts. He destroys people. He does it. But in general, if we've got Luton Town, if Luton Town are to sit back, and they will, believe me, they will sit back, and Liverpool take a little while to score the first goal, then is it going to happen? I don't know. Salah could definitely get an assist, but is he going to get the opening goal against Luton? I don't think he'll have that opportunity. I don't think his role is to be in those kind of positions. Whereas we look at Haaland against Bournemouth, and he scores the first goal, second goal, third goal. You know, we expect it doesn't matter. Well, let's look at the defensive numbers again, as we were just a moment ago. We look at the defensive numbers. Let's do again defensive, non-penalty expected goals against. We got Bournemouth all the way down here. Pretty much the same as Luton. Their total expected goals conceded is actually worse than Luton, but penalties. I mean, but do you count that in it? I don't know. Luton haven't really conceded penalties this season, so it's hard to say. It's not necessarily saying they won't concede a penalty against Liverpool, though. But yeah, Bournemouth, super low down here. Really weak defence. I know people like to say, oh, it's Burnley, Luton, Sheffield United. These are the teams to target. Well, Bournemouth are just as bad, if not worse than some of these teams. They really are quite bad. Defensively, Bournemouth, bless their hearts. One clean sheet all season. And constantly conceding a boatload of chances, conceding the second most shots in the box of any team in the Premier League. Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. They conceded a lot of big chances. Yeah, and it's a home game for City as well. This seems quite. I don't think. Like, I think people will naturally say, oh, Luton is a better fixture for Salah than Haaland is, the Bournemouth is for Haaland. I disagree. I don't think there's much in it. In fact, if anything, the home versus away probably leads me towards Bournemouth being the better fixture. I'd rather pick if both Salah and Haaland were it was the other way round, and Haaland was playing against Luton away, and Salah was playing Bournemouth at home, I'd be more inclined to pick Salah then. But it's not. It's the other way around. So to me, and it looks like, I'm going to end the poll. Looks like the majority of you guys, 77% of you, are saying that Haaland is the best captain. And one more note on this as a tactical matchup, and this is, by the way, is why I captained Watkins, and perhaps why Diaby did well. And this is a note that, to be fair, could work in Salah's favour, possibly. But Luton do tend to concede their goals either centrally or just on, their left-hand side, the left-hand side of the defence, which is where Salah would be cutting in if he wasn't playing wide. And I think that is maybe the difficulty here, because, again, look at the heat maps here, guys. You can see Salah's heat map is pretty wide. It's much wider than we've seen him in previous years. It is much wider. So, I don't know. I just back Haaland right now. But yeah, poll's over. Poll is over. I think most of us are saying Haaland is the better captain, but there's obviously going to be some divide there. But hey, that's my opinion. That is what I'm saying. That is all I have to say on that matter. Okay, right, guys. Let's do some questions. I'll load up the price changes. We'll do some questions and then we'll wrap up the stream. Try and keep the questions as brief as possible. I often say this when we go to questions. Usually the kind of questions are like, if you had Watkins, Haaland, Adingra, and Gabriel, would you take a -8 for this player, or this player and this player, or would you rather roll the transfer and make this triple transfer in game week 38? And it's like, who is this question useful for? like, anything I say is only interesting to one person. Any reply I can give. So try and keep those questions as general as possible. Those are going to be the kind of questions I answer, because obviously a lot of people watching the stream right now. I want to make sure everyone is getting something out of this. And obviously we've got a lot of replay watchers, a lot of people watching the replay of the stream as well. And I want to make sure that everyone feels like they've gained something from this. So whilst you guys are doing some questions, we're gonna have a look at the Fantasy Football Hub price prediction changes thingy. Again, check Fantasy Football Hub, link in the description. Yeah, Simicast looks likely to change price tonight. Oh, the new beautiful interface tells us when a player is gonna change in price. So it looks like Simicast, Johnson, and Darwin. In fact, let's change it to the other way. The trend? Is it the trend I'm looking for? No, the progress. This is what I'm looking for. Right, I'm going to order it by progress, just so we can have an idea of who is going to go up throughout the week. So, Simicast, Johnston, Darwin predicted to go up in price tonight. This is so handy, because usually I would just be making predictions, but now this does it for me. Pal Torres, Szoboszlai, Salah, and Diaby are likely to go up in price tomorrow. So, guys, be aware of this. If you are looking to make transfer moves, then be aware of price changes, if that's going to lock you out of any particular moves. If you need to go early, then you need to go early. Raya, Burn, and Archer should be fine. Particularly Burn, who's actually going down. Madison, increase in 2 days. Kabore, he's probably going down, to be honest, trending downwards. Nketiah, it's likely to go up in price tomorrow, as is Mbumo, likely to go up in price tomorrow. I do want to, for my own reference, check out where Saka is. Okay. He's actually trending downwards, interestingly. So I don't need to be worried about a Saka price increase, which is good. Palmer could go up before the deadline, potentially. Not sure. I'll have to keep an eye on Palmer, but at least Saka is probably not going to go up in price this week. Soshek is actually trending slightly upwards, which is weird. Don't know why. Let's look at some price decreases. Who is likely to go down this week? Neto's going down tonight, as is Isak. Adoggy's going down in price. Adoggy, by the way, is expected to play. It is in the ticker, which is down there somewhere. In the ticker, the latest FPL bulletins. You guys probably may have seen that. Here it is. It's coming now. Here it comes. Adoggy is expected to be fine to face Chelsea. The last word's Chelsea. Adoggy is actually expected to be back. So I don't think he's a must sell, but regardless, he's likely to go down to 4.8 million tonight. As is Gibbs White, Sterling, Jesus, Ings, Casemiro, Disasi. I mean, how many of you guys own them realistically? Any other players trending downwards quite significantly? Diaz, Morris, Erdegaard, knee jerk, Rashford, etc., etc. Robertson maybe goes down in a week, maybe. Luke Shaw, another drop in 2 days, apparently, for him. Do people still have Luke Shaw in their team? That is wild to me. But aside from that, most other players look reasonably safe for price changes this week. But things can change very, very quickly, of course, as we know. Right, questions in the chat. And whilst the questions are in the chat, let's just throw my pick team screen, I guess. There you go, just put that on the screen. Right. Jandre says, would you do Adoggy to Simicast for free or keep Adoggy? I think it's fine to keep Adoggy. I mean, it's fine to keep him. If you want to make that move, that's fine. I don't think you need to make a move. It feels a little bit luxury. Odin says, when are you coming back to Twitter? You are one of the 5 people I follow. Wow, your follow feed must be 20% less populated. I was thinking about coming back today. I mean, honestly, I know I have to, but honestly, I don't really want to, is the answer to that one. But we need to do 100 experts this week. And that's the one thing bringing me back to Twitter, to be honest. I'm just not interested. I just think Twitter's just a weird place. It's very toxic, and a lot of the posts, and I'm guilty of this myself, you just post stuff for likes and for interactions, and you just get addicted to just trying to get interactions all the time, and a lot of people do it. I don't blame them. They're like, the game's the game, but it's like the most vacuous nonsense, just like sometimes controversial or whatever, just for likes. Like, I'm a little bit over it, to be honest, but never mind. But yeah, whatever. I don't know. We'll see. I'll see how I feel tomorrow, but I don't really want to, but I know I have to. Anyway. Trippier or Porro, bench one, CJR says. I guess. I don't know. I feel like I still play Trippier against anyone. Back him against anyone. Justin says, who is your ideal Neto replacement? Palmer for the long term. If you want someone who you can just put in your team and then focus your transfers on, you know, some of the more expensive positions, the bigger hitting positions in your team, the forwards, the more expensive, like the 6.5 million midfielders, you can just hold Palmer for a long time and just use your other transfers on those other areas of your team in the future. That's probably the way I would go personally, to be honest, but Hwang is definitely an interesting punt if you're looking for something short term. Gordon is also an interesting pick, but I am worried about the amount of games, particularly difficult games, that Newcastle have coming up, and I could see potentially Gordon being occasionally rested, occasionally rotated, particularly in the tougher, particularly in the easier fixtures, actually, because I do believe he is first choice. What else we got here? Oh word, there's a lot. Why do other content creators rather sell cash than burn? Because I think definitely burn is the worst pick for this game week. I think we all agree on that one. But if we look through Cash's fixtures, he's only got 2 good ones left. Forest and Fulham, 2 good fixtures. After that, we have got that Bournemouth game. But in general, when you look at this run, we're looking at 1 clean sheet, really, for Aston Villa. I mean, they struggle to keep clean sheets, even against like the easiest teams in the league. Clean sheets are not very likely. Attacking returns are considerably less likely against the likes of Spurs, Man City, Arsenal and Brentford as well. So where are the points coming from? If you're not going to get clean sheets, you're not going to get attacking returns, what is the best case scenario in this run? Aside from the Bournemouth match, this is a horrible run of fixtures for Cash, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him blank in all but one of those. So that's why people are selling Matty Cash, is because he's a player that is going to soon be on the chopping block anyway. I'll probably sell him in game week 13. If I don't, I'll sell him in game week 15. So he's definitely a player who is not a long-term pick. Where someone like Burn, yes, we have Arsenal now, but after that, you'd be looking to hold him on long-term. You know, if you have a little bit to rotate in maybe the Liverpool Man City game, you'd be happy to pretty much own Burn for the rest of the season. So he's a good long-term hold, and I don't think Cash has the same appeal. So I think that's why people are more inclined to say sell Cash than Burn. It's because they're thinking long-term rather than thinking short-term. The short-term thinker sells Burn, the long-term thinker maybe sells Cash. But depending on your situation, there's nothing wrong with thinking short-term. There's nothing wrong with that. It depends what you really want to do with your transfers in future. So, yeah. One to think about. Doyle Sports says, is this guy still a homophobe? If you're talking about me, you couldn't be further from the truth. I'm absolutely a huge ally, which some people... you know, I posted this kind of stuff online before. I've actually got a lot of heat. I've got a lot of anger from people for being an ally. So, yeah, definitely don't know where that's come from. Never has been true and never will be. No, very, very supportive of pretty much everyone, to be fair. Very supportive of a lot of people and try to represent and speak about you know, minorities and marginalised people wherever I can because, yeah, that's it. It's certainly issues that are very, very important to me. But maybe we'll save that for not on the YouTube channel. But there we go. Who would you swap Bruno Fernandes for? I'd probably swap him for Saka, but I'd wait 1 more game week, most likely. I think that's the obvious replacement, isn't he? Anyone who's thinking about selling Gabriel, I would have a second think about that one because I can see a few people talking about selling Gabriel. Giandre says, Dan, I went for Darwin on Game Week 8 wildcard instead of Watkins. Darwin leads by 1 point so far. Crazy, man, crazy. Fingers crossed, he might miss Game Week 13, but that's against City. That's not such a bad thing, really. If you're going to have Darwin miss 1 game, that's probably the one you want to miss out. Scott says, what are the players on your watch list? I definitely recommend you check out my tier list video I uploaded earlier on today. All of the players in the top couple of sections, those are the kind of players that I like for transfers in this week. But of course, in my team selection video, I'll do now every week now in the team selection videos, we're doing a watch list in those videos. So yeah, we'll do that there as well. So yeah, there we go. We'll come to that later. Mohammed says, who would you swap Bowen for? I would not give up on Bowen. Mr. Mango says, any current thoughts on Mitoma? Mitoma is a player whose fixtures I am not as convinced by as I once was. You know, we've got like Everton away is next. A couple of weeks ago, we would have said that's a good fixture. I think Everton have actually turned a corner. They're looking stronger and stronger defensively with each game. And that's also reflected in the numbers, by the way, guys. Again, if we go back to our non-penalty expected goals against over the 10 game weeks this season, we actually see Everton sitting in, what's that, 7th best in the league, joint with Brentford. That's pretty decent, right? So Everton actually, maybe we need to readjust how we think of Everton as a defence. Actually, maybe they are a little bit stronger, which definitely opens the door to players like Tarkowski and Branthwaite. Branthwaite, 4 million, by the way. Decent. Szoboszlai 1 week punt, don't really like it, to be honest. Don't really like it. As a 1 week punt, I guess maybe, but look, even some of the tougher games, I would rather go for example, Mbeumo. If you want a 1 week punt and you haven't got Mbeumo already, I'd much rather go Mbeumo over Szoboszlai. How long is Nketiah good to play up to game week? He'll probably play up to game week 12. And then from game week 13, he's under serious risk of getting rotated. Best striker for 6.9 or less? Great question. I actually don't really know how to answer that one. Let's have a look at the points predictions. This is always a good tool for getting ideas. If you have no clue, then don't worry, you've got a tool that can help you out. So 6.9 million or less. Again, this is a great reason why, guys, you should not download. Well, actually, you download the app of Fantasy Football Hub and get your subscription because it is important. Well, Fantasy Football Hub reckons over the next 4 game weeks, the highest scoring forwards for 6.9 million or less are Wissa, Jackson, Awoniyi, Nketiah, Edouard, SALAH. I have to admit, there's not a lot. There really isn't much. I would have a look at Ferguson and João Pedro, but the rotation risk is nuts. Yeah, to be honest, for me, like when I'm in these situations where I need a player for a certain budget or less, and actually I look at the players and actually I'm not really convinced by any of them, that's usually a sign that maybe actually you need a double, like a double transfer and actually get the striker you want, because as soon as you go to 7.5, you start opening up some really nice options. Alvarez, Darwin Nunez, etc., etc. So that's probably what I would do. I would not buy a striker for 6.9 million or less. I'd keep whoever you've got right now and think about making a double change in the future if you need to. Do you think Soucek starts this week? I'm pretty confident Soucek starts, but he'll start in defensive midfield because Alvarez is suspended with his 5th yellow card. That's the West Ham Alvarez, by the way, not the Man City one. What else have we got here? Do you like pineapple on pizza? Absolutely not. Terrible. I don't like I don't even like pineapple on gammon. Pineapple has no place in the savoury culinary space. That is my opinion. Nikhil says, Odogi to Tsimikas or Gehi. I don't think you need to sell a doggy. I think that's a luxury move. Watkins versus Diaby. Watkins versus Darwin, sorry. Leaning Darwin this game week, but I think Watkins is the better long-term hold. But Darwin's the better short-term, I think. Bowen for Bruno Fernandes? Yeah, sure, if you want to. It could be worse. But honestly, I'd probably just keep Bruno. Hope for a penalty. Bench Bowen for Darwin? I would definitely play Darwin this week. He would be one of the first names on my team sheet if I was making a team. If I was making a team for game week 11 only. Bench Nketiah or Douglas Luiz for next week? Mohammed, I see you've been knee-jerking, my friend. Bench probably Nketiah. Probably bench Nketiah. Which is why I don't understand why he's the most popular transfer in of the game week. Because if I had him, I'd probably be benching him. So it seems like kind of a pointless player. I don't know. It's decent with a croque monsieur. I love a croque monsieur, but I would not be putting pineapple on it. Absolutely disgraceful. Disgraceful. Best defender on a 4.2 million other than Taylor, Branthwaite and Maguire. No further comment. No further comment. Who would you place Ndingra with? I wouldn't replace Ndingra at all. Replacements for Neto. The best replacements for Neto. I did kind of answer this question already, but let's just throw. Let's say like Neto is what, 5.8, something like that. Let's look at midfielders under 5.8. We'll go to 6 just in case some of you guys have some money in the bank. These are the best replacements. Gordon, Palmer, Ndingra. I would tend to agree with those 3. Yeah, I mean you could throw in Hwang as well if you wanted to. Here he goes, He-Chan. You could potentially throw in Gibbs White if you wanted to. Gibbs White is on penalties, by the way, for Forest, but Forest just can't attack. Decore does get some good opportunities, but he can't really finish his dinner. Rodrigo is, I think, a conversation we've had too many times on this channel, so we'll leave that one as well. But yeah, Gordon, Palmer, Adingra I like as well. Gibbs White is okay. Hee-Chan is pretty nice, particularly for the Sheffield United fixture. Why not? Why not? Anyone asking about triple captains as well, because we get triple captain questions every single game week. As always, my answer is the same. No, I would not be triple captaining at any point before a double game week. I will be using my triple captain in a double game week, and I refuse to endorse any triple captain outside of a double game week. If you'd like to go against that, that's absolutely fine. I'm not the boss of you. You can do what you want. You're your own person. But if you're looking for confirmation bias, you will not find it here, sirs. You will not. Triple captain is for double game weeks for me. And I like to think of myself as quite a good triple captain as well. One of the few things I'm good at in FPL, actually. One of my few I always seem to do pretty well on the triple captain. Find the right time to play it. When is the double game week? Double game weeks, they will come. We already had one, but no, they will come later down in the season. Someone asked when you plan to do a bench boost. Same situation, double game week, probably a double game week, or at least I think near to a wild card. I like to plan around a bench boost with a wild card and construct a decent chip strategy, which I'm not going to think about right now because there's so much stuff that can change and can happen. We don't have a clue what chip strategies are and are not going to be viable until we start seeing cup results, until we start seeing fixtures getting postponed, and until we start getting fixtures rescheduled as well. So we're not thinking about chips. We're not thinking about double game weeks. Not yet. Not yet. But soon we will start having the odd double game week. Man City are going to have like a random double game week. I can't remember when it's going to be, like game week 20 or something like that. Man City are very likely to have a double game week then, but we're still a little while away from that. And they will blank before that as well. So that's going to be an interesting one to navigate. But guys, we've been going for an hour, so I think we wrap things up right about now. Appreciate you guys joining me. Sorry for those of you guys whose question I could not answer, but feel free to leave a comment on the stream replay upload in like the comment section, and I'll try and answer a few of those there as well. In fact, I'll answer loads of them as long as they're like fairly. I always answer the simple questions. The super complicated questions, it's like I don't know. People like put out their whole team and suggest 10 different transfer strategies, and it's like I spend about 12 hours like per day thinking about my own team and my strategy. It's not a question I can answer in 5 minutes to come up with all the solutions to every single person's team. But yeah, general questions, always more than happy to answer those ones because I can be more confident in my answers and hopefully give some good answers rather than just going on vibes, because I don't have an hour to sit down and analyze everyone's team, unfortunately. Wish I did. If I did, I'd be a very rich man, I imagine, but no. But guys, thank you. Really appreciate you watching today. Make sure you are dropping a like before you disappear. It really does help out the channel. Do go check out the tier list video uploaded earlier on today. We'll also be doing a buy, sell, keep, avoid video for Tuesday. Subscribe, make sure notifications are on. We're going to be doing a full week of content this week. It's going to be, content crazy. There'll be like loads of content this week. It's going to be a big one. Big one. Back to the grind, back to the hustle. We might be back on Twitter tomorrow. Well, let's see. But aside from that, thank you so much for watching once again. And I will see you later, mates. Appreciate you guys. Bye-bye.